In a previous presentation, we discussed the attitudes related to critical thinking. The current presentation is about the skills that are needed for critical thinking, or the skills that critical thinkers need to have. So, we will begin with generally understanding the concept of skill. As skill is something that generally is different from attitudes. So, what is a skill? A skill could be defined as one's ability to do something practically. Or we can also say the degree or level of expertise in doing or performing something. So, to elaborate on this general definition of skill, we can say that skill can be understood in terms of expertise, for example, in managing relationships. Similarly, practical activities such as driving, cooking, writing, speaking. So the degree of our expertise in terms of these practical activities could also be referred to as skills. Similarly, soft skills such as the skills of analysis, interpreting things, and understanding situations and information could also be considered as skills. Similarly, understanding and dealing with situations or managing situations could also be considered as skills. Now, what are the skills that are generally attributed to critical thinkers, or the skills that actually help in the process of critical thinking? So this is a list which is actually not an exhaustive list. There are other skills as well that could be attributed to the ability of critical thinking. But these are some of the important skills that critical thinkers need to have. The first one is accessing information. So critical thinkers, as we know that thinking is actually about processing information, analyzing information. So the first thing that we need to do is, in order to be good critical thinkers, is actually to have the ability, the skill to access information. And so as we know that information can be accessed mainly through observations and through communication with people and with situations. So this is something very important, that the critical thinkers should have this ability to access information using their observation and their communication skills. Then just accessing information is not important, is not enough. We also need, as critical thinkers, we need to have the skill to organize information and to bring information into some order and to analyze information. So once we organize information, the next thing is analyzing information, which actually means that breaking down the chunks of information into something that we can analyze, that we can we can examine individually the individual pieces of information, and they then make a collection of information. Then the other important skill is evaluating information. So not just analysis or breaking down information for understanding is not enough. We also need to evaluate information to understand the value of the chunks of information that we get. The next one is making assumptions or hypotheses, or we can say educated guesses on the basis of information that we have accessed, that we have organized and analyzed, and that we have evaluated. So on the basis of that, we need to make tentative decisions or assumptions or hypotheses. And this, in many cases, will actually take us, or in some cases, we are actually compelled to do formal or informal research in order to ensure the authenticity of our assumptions and to see whether our hypotheses are correct or incorrect. So conducting research is an important skill that critical thinkers should have. Then synthesizing information. The information that we get, once you analyze that, once you collect and analyze empirical data related to the kind of assumptions and hypotheses we have, we can then synthesize or combine the information into holistic sets of understanding. And then this leads to our conclusions or decisions. So that is why critical thinkers can make decisions or conclusions on the basis of their research. And their decisions are well informed. So this skill of making conclusions or decisions on the basis of systematic observation, collection of information, analysis of information, and then getting to conclusions is something very important as critical thinkers. Then identifying problems and issues in our conclusions. So we, as critical thinkers, the process is more cyclic or reiterative. So it's not a one-way traffic where you reach at some conclusion and then you stop. You can again identify problems and issues and loopholes in the kind of conclusions that you have, and then identifying alternatives. So you need to assume alternative answers to your questions, to the problems that arise as a result of further reflection. And again, those alternatives explanation will pass through the same process. And then managing situations. So as we can see that critical thinkers look at things systematically, scientifically, rationally, and they calculate things and they analyze things and they get to conclusions. And as a result, they have this ability to manage situations well. So these are some of the important skills that generally critical thinkers should have.